Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, Reeling in Holistic Health, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I'm your host, Coach Rice, and I want to make sure that you tune in every Monday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where I have my special guest on to talk about real issues that matter most. I want you to check us out on YouTube, Facebook Live, on Business Facebook page, also on the Be Awesome Network. Stay tuned. I think you're going to really like this next guest. Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I am your host, Coach Rice, and with me today I have the CEO of Anchor Point, which is a nonprofit you will learn more about as we go through the conversation. I have with me Debbie Simmons. Debbie, tell us where you're from and how did you tell us how did you embark upon being the CEO of Anchor Point?
That's a great question. Well, I am in the Houston, Texas area, and originally, if we back up in my story a little bit, I had went through a very difficult season where I struggled with infertility, ultimately got pregnant with quads, and then the boys, as they were born, were just placed in my arms until I held them until they passed away. And
Oh,
in that,
no.
yeah, so it was a hard time. And in that time, you know, a couple of things happened is, sitting there in the hospital that night, I realized that, what we do matters and time matters, and we need to be intentional about what we do with our life because, you know, we all want to be about leaving a legacy, but we need to live our legacies so we get to see what our legacy is going to be in the end, right? And so as I kind of went through that grief process and God taught me how to walk through that with, laying aside the question of why and learning to ask, how do I survive? And then how do I thrive? And as I did that and trusted him with my story, he began to open more and more doors. And one of those was, to help people struggling with loss. And then another was to adopt 9 children. And then another opportunity came along to plant the seeds for a ministry. And these, I'm an engineer by training. So these things weren't really like on my plan. But a lot of
Okay.
times, they're not on your plan. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew to do something. So I did something and then I was like, well, that was good or that wasn't. And I changed and I did something else and just did this over and over and over again. And the ministry, Anchor Point, impacts literally thousands of families. It's been around for 15 years. And it is a blessing to be a part of watching lives changed and things like that. But it came out of great loss and then just faithful obedience to what I felt like I was called to do and just slowly taking steps in the right direction to get there. And so that is how it came to be. So I created my own job. So
So how do you help families? I have a couple of questions actually, but I'm gonna ask this one. How do you help families with Anchor Point?
sure. We have multi-divisional type approach, and we deal with families when they first find out they're pregnant and they don't know what to do and they're overwhelmed. So we have a medical clinic that works with them. And then we move them over into our case management, where most of us when we get children, they don't come with instruction manuals, and so we need help, right? And so this, so we have just wonderful case managers and mentors that walk alongside them and are like, okay, here's the next step. You got to do this. Here's the next step. You got to do this, and a lot of times, you and I just need someone that has a little more experience to kind of show us our way through this foggy situation to the other side, right? And so that's what we do there. And then we also run a maternity home for girls who are homeless, where we do 24/7 programming to set them up to be able to sustain themselves and their babies as they move into their next phase of life. And then we also do a lot of stuff in our community with parenting training. Um, prenatal
It's
training.
amazing.
We do therapeutic camps for kids who are adopted with trauma backgrounds, and we have recovery groups for sexual abuse, abortion, trauma, just general trauma to help people be whole and be healthy. And so we're just really blessed to be able to be in that space and make an impact in people's lives.
Wow, that's a big calling. So
Mhm.
you mentioned something that stuck with me. You said, I trusted God with my story.
Mhm.
What did you actually mean by that? Because that's a
Well,
powerful quote. Trusted God with my story. I love it.
yeah. Well, as I worked my way through the question of how do I survive, he taught me take the next best step. And so I would take a step and he would meet me and then he would show me the next step and I would take it and this went on over and over again. So it was the way you walk through grief, but it's also the way you develop quite a strong faith muscle because faith is a muscle, okay, that we
Yes.
must work. Okay. And as I got healthier and healthier and I changed the question to, okay, how do I thrive? I said, okay, God, you say you're a redeemer of stories and this is mine. So, what can you do with my story? Because I don't want it to just be a sad ending, that, oh, we just lost kids. I'm like, make something beautiful out of this. And so, as I've had the opportunity to do all these different ministry things and build Anchor Point and do all this stuff. The wonderful blessing in all of it, and even telling the story, is that my boy's legacy lives on, right? It lives on through me,
Right.
and I get my chance to write my legacy right now to impact lives and to impact them once I'm gone and stuff like that. So, um, you have to let him have your story to be able to redeem your story. Because if I'm holding on to my hurt and my pain, then he can't do much with that. But when I give that to him and say, okay, and then he's like, well, lead a grief group. I'm like, it really wasn't on my plan, but okay, I'll try that. And then, and to see most people are more impacted by our pain and our ability to move through it than they are by our successes, because they see that we're just real people with real challenges and that if she can do it, I can figure my way through. And it's a privilege to be able to encourage people that way to say, yeah, you can lose children and you can still have a meaningful life. And
Wow.
and the truth is, when we think about it, is that, it'll just be a blink of the eye before I'm reunited with my boys. But
Mhm.
we see time in a very different way, right? We think, oh
Right.
gosh, it's going to be decades, but it really is going to go quickly. And so I will be reunited with them. So, I hope they look down and they're going, oh, their mama's doing good. She's making an
Right.
impact. Mhm.
So it sounds like you stewarding your time
Mhm.
and valuing your time that you have on earth with what God has blessed you with. So when you talk about legacy,
Mhm.
tell the audience more about how to map that out in your life in general terms, high level.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, the question is that uh, there's no issue. We are all going to die and we are all going to have a legacy to leave. Okay. The only question for you and I is if we would like to craft that legacy. And in order to craft that legacy, we have to live the legacy. So, when I was sitting in there with the babies in the hospital, after they had passed away, I just was like, eternity matters. What we do matters. And life is too short. And I want to make sure that my life counts for something. And so I knew I needed to be focused and to look for ways to live a life of impact. Okay. And, God's very gracious. If you ask Him, He will tell you if you are if you are aligning with him and you're saying, okay, God, how is it that I can make an impact. He loves that because you're joining him in what he wants to do, right? And so we get a
Right.
privilege of doing that. And I just tried to do that at every turn. It wasn't always easy. I mean, it required walking away from my engineering career. Um,
Mm,
and leaving the corporate world. It required going to seminary. That wasn't on my list either. It required working on church staffs. That wasn't on my, my list either. But it's amazing if you look back and I go, oh, look at what I picked up here and what I picked up here and what I picked up here. And, our lives aren't straight journeys. They're full of little
right.
destination stops, right? And so I go, you know, most of us don't stop when we think about legacy. Most of us just don't stop and breathe and think about how could we make a difference? How could we be used by God in a special way? And I go, wouldn't the world be a better place if we stopped and we thought about that? And so one of the fun things I like to do is just create space where people stop and think.
Oh,
Because,
nice.
yeah, because here's what I know. I know that if you sit and you stop and think and you begin to see what's kind of coming up inside of you, that once you figure out it's there, you can't unknow it.
Right.
Okay. And you're going to have to figure your way. So you can ignore it and it's going to
Right.
keep coming up, or you can lean in and go, I don't know where this great adventure is going, but I want to be faithful. So I'm gonna go and see. And I would tell you, hey, to be in the center of God's will, doing what He's called you to do it's a great roller coaster ride. Lots of highs and lots of lows. But wouldn't you want to be in the center of what He's called you to do? That's a safe.
Absolutely.
That's a
That's the
safe.
safest place you can be.
Yeah, even if it's not so safe at the time.
But right.
Uh,
But he's with you.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's so
Yeah.
beautiful about that story is that that's total surrender, which is not easy
No,
because
it's
you had to
never.
leave your job, you had to leave your identity that
hmm
you had once had and fall under his identity.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. So the big words I always hear that I always have to figure out, it's like surrender and humility. I'm like, oh Lordy,
yes.
have mercy. Okay. I'm like, have I mastered that yet? But no.
Was it when you did have to make that transition?
Mhm.
What was it like for you to leave and move over into another area? Was it a smooth transition? Tell us about that journey that led you to actually you did have you thought you would see yourself in this position now, but you surrender and help you get there.
Okay. It was the transition piece was fine because I had already surrendered by then. Okay. The
Okay.
getting to the transition piece was very different. It was 2 years of no, I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Wow.
And God would say, you need to do this. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. And he would just keep. I mean, like when you know it, you're not going to win. It's going to keep coming up, and it would keep coming up and keep coming up. And I would try and just push it away. And I had all I sounded like Moses. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. And he just kept coming back, and I was like, my husband, we were out watching stars or something one night, and I never sit still. And he said, you need to get on with going to seminary. And I was like, are you kidding? And I was like, okay. So then I was just like, okay, God, I'll check it out. And I looked at seminaries and I figured out what I was going to have to do. And God's like, turn the application in. And I'm like, are you for real? This requires me to go in front of the church and tell them I think I'm called into ministry and they get to vote on it. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And so I just kept doing each little step. And the funny part was on the seminary application, they they said write down, basically any sins you've committed that we should be concerned about. So I wrote down every sin I think I've ever committed that I can remember, and I added paper. And I was like, "You're gonna get the real deal." And I sent that sucker off, and they accepted me. And so when they accepted me, the next dilemma became, I was like, "Okay, God, I got to quit my job. How am I going to quit my job? I'm the breadwinner in our family." And my husband is in graduate school and he's not close to leaving. And I said, if you really want me to do this, I said, I'm have some girls, I'm going to ask them to pray. And so I had some girlfriends and I was like, okay, you guys to pray that God would drop a job into my husband's lap. They beg him to come to work. It'd be exactly what he wants to do. And it'd be about this much money. And within 2 weeks,
Specifics.
the job fell into his lap. They begged him to come to work. It was exactly what he wanted to do. And it was $10,000 short. And I was like, okay, God, I guess I'm supposed to live without that $10,000 for now. And so he walked away from finishing his graduate degree because he thought it was so important. And he went to work, and I left my work and I went to seminary. Um,
Wow.
so it was a great, ultimately in the end, after I quit resisting, it actually was really pretty amazing to get to watch God's hand as he handled all the details because I didn't know how we were going to do all that. But I will tell you, when you know what you're supposed to do, you don't get to know it. So,
Right. And our resources doesn't top his ability. So
mhm.
it doesn't matter what we have. He's going to make it happen anyway, right?
Yeah. So it's just a matter of me learning to trust, right? And
Right.
do I really trust him? And do I really trust that he's a good father and that he is writing a good story with my life? And that I can lean into that. And now what I would like to say is that, over time, I've gotten much better at that, right? And now people go, "Oh, you have so much faith." I'm like, I'm just a yes girl because I'm tired of arguing. I'm like, whatever you want. You don't even have to tell me all the details. I'm going to handle it. I got it. And, that's a wonderful place to be is that, I don't get that right every time, but I do most of the time now. So that's a good thing.
Wow. Now, does your nonprofit help a certain geographical location, or is it just open to nationwide? What is it?
Yeah, so we do have for our therapeutic camps in the summer that we do for kids that are struggling and families. We do have people come from across the United States periodically to do those
Okay.
camps. Everything else is mostly in the greater Houston area, which is a very large area of impact. So that is where a large majority of our clients come from. But we do, as we continue on, we need to look at doing some more things that we can do online, nationwide, that type of thing. That's some of the things we're transitioning into.
Okay. So the camps is it a certain age group for the camps and is certain time frame that you do it, and how do they actually get
And
into it?
so this camp, the applications will be up probably by February 15th. But the Pathway to Hope camp is a camp for generally what we say is the target child is a child between the age of 5 to 13.
Okay.
And the parent is going, this is generally the parent. I don't know what to do with this child.
Oh, okay.
And the child might be struggling behaviorally, all kinds of different things. It could be adopted, it could be a biological child, it could be a grandparent raising a kid, grandkid. And they just go online, fill out the application. It's a family camp. It's generally the last week in July. And it's a week-long camp. But what we will see is we will see about a year and a half of growth in the child in the course of a year. So it's about a year and a half worth of counseling. And then the parents also stay and they participate in camp, and we see the most growth in the parents because I have to be able to learn what my baggage is that I'm bringing into the relationship and how it's getting in the way. And then I need to
Yes.
be able to still see my child as precious. So, and to be able to call out the good in them. And we can't take children on journeys of healing unless we ourselves have been on them. And so it's just a wonderful, wonderful time for families to be able to figure out how to reset everything and lay a strong foundation for knowing how to work with the child that they have. And it's just amazing the results that we get to see. So they
Oh,
would
that
just go,
is amazing.
yeah, so they would just go online to Anchor Point, look under events, and they can find out about the Pathway to Hope Camp.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what advice would you give the audience? One piece of advice.
Well, the first, I love this concept of, because I use it all the time, is this concept of giving up the why question and learning to ask, how do I survive? And I do that by taking the next best step. And then how do I thrive? Those questions, doing those things has, I do that all the time as I've grown in the years. And even like now, if I get in a situation, I'm like, okay, what's the next best step I need to take? And the truth is that if we're taking the next best step that we can think of, we've got movement, and God can work with movement. He can't work with stuck. He can work with us.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, when we are trying to move in the right direction, he can work with that because he's got a willing heart and you're trying to do the thing. Stuck means I'm still inward focused and I'm not willing to do the hard things that I need to do yet. And the truth be told, this side of heaven, there is no acceptable answer to why. Because
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
as soon as someone tells me the answer, like if someone told me the answer for why I had to lose boys, and let's say it was a great answer, my next question would be why?
right.
And this just keeps on going, right?
Keep on going, right?
Because it doesn't satisfy. It doesn't bring my boys back. It doesn't, solve anything. It's just like, no, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And so that is the surrender piece when we talk about, walking through difficult things. And I go, you know, your daddy God looks at you and he smiles. He's not displeased with you. He wants us to lean in. And tomorrow the sun is going to come up again. And
Yes.
you are precious. You are valuable. And we have good things to offer. So
So in the work that you do you help people that are stuck get moved from that place to the next? Do you help them with that?
I'm fixing to release a course that we just created, and it's called Unstuck for Good. It is a 5 week process, and I've taught it several times, and it really resonates with the person who is struggling, trying to figure their way through a difficult situation. They might be depressed, they could have lost children, they could have had a spouse divorce them. There's all kinds of things, right? And this just resonates with them, and it walks through those questions and it teaches us how to figure our way through the good process because we want to be able to be whole and healthy and be impact players. So that'll be coming out in the next week or so. That will be available. And I think it's a wonderful tool to just walk you through the process and help you figure out how to make your way.
And
Because
is
that's what
this an in-person or online or both?
that's an online, so anybody can do it anywhere, and it's a seminar that I've taught and I've recorded that they go through for 5 weeks, and it's got a workbook and it does all the pieces with you, so you can do it at your own pace. Because
Okay.
because sometimes some of us need a little longer to process and stuff like that, but it's a great first step for someone who is really trying to figure their way.
Okay. And I'll put that in the
Yeah.
video, the links so that they can get to that so they
Mhm.
can register.
Yeah, I can get you. Yeah, I'll get you that stuff to make sure you have it. And then also for your listeners, if they would like a copy of my book, it's called The Heart of Legacy. living a focused, faithful, and fearless life. And it also will be a way for them to kind of enter into that process. It's more of my story, but in the middle is full of ideas for how to figure your way and to do the next best thing or go to the next level that he's calling you to. And then it has wonderful stories of life change about Anchor Point at the end, in the back third of it. That is really a blessing, but that is a gift for your listeners. It's free of charge, and they can get that at theheartoflegacy.com. And so all they need to do is fill it out and they'll ship them the book.
Oh, wow. That's really awesome. That is a great gift. That's a great gift. Well, I am so grateful to have met you and talked to you, and that you sharing so much wisdom with the audience. Thank you so much for showing up today and sharing a part of yourself. Keep doing what you're doing, building that legacy and helping others do the same, and love what you're doing. And we'll put all your information in the comments of the video. And to the
Okay.
audience, I just want to thank you so much for listening, and hope that this has been a blessing. If you know someone who can actually benefit from this, please do share the video. And if you don't forget, it's shares a free gift for all the listeners. So, and they will be in the comment section. So just want to say thank you for listening. And please do subscribe. See, I tell you to subscribe. You might miss out on some stuff. So do subscribe and share, because we always want to help everyone get to where they need to be. And so we just want to say happy Monday and have a fantastic day.
It's your time to shine. Your journey to chart. Coach Rice wisdom will heal every heart. So join us now. Let's make life suffice. Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice.